And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
And again, to take control of our government now before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back.
And
welcome to the University of Logic, better known as Cristiano's Conservatory, correcting convoluted conversations. Welcome to Liberty Talk Radio, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano. And before we start, and we have several guests here today.
Yeah,
well, before we start, I want everyone in Radio Land to know that you are listening to radio's #1 talk show program during this time slot.
Really?
Yeah, we broke it. We broke through. We are the best. We are #1. We are one. We are #1. Right. No, but some people think that this is the only program that we have. I'd like you to know that we have actually a companion broadcast on the internet, libertytalkradio.com, which is typically broadcasted on Thursday morning at 6:30.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because you can listen to it anytime.
Yeah, listen anytime. Everyone's hollering at me, folks. Come on.
Joe, this is the only scheduled broadcast. This is the only scheduled broadcast.
This is a scheduled broadcast. Okay.
Yeah.
We post weekly the internet show every week on both the app, which we have.
Yeah,
right?
an app. That's a little device you download on your phone, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And on the website, no, this is not the same show you're listening to right now. It's actually a different show. It's not what they call a celestially
broadcasted show. It's not been broadcast throughout the airways. It is on the internet.
All right. So if you haven't heard,
that's amazing.
Get the app or go online to hear it.
Yeah, either way, they can do it, Joe.
Okay.
I just want you to know, folks, that you can get Joe at a different time, not the same show, anytime, either downloading his app on your iPhone or on your Google Play, from the Google Play Store. Just type in Liberty Talk Radio. The logo comes up and download it. Then when you want to hear him, they'll hear the show at any time. It'll just come into wherever, it's on a loop.
We're on several platforms. We're on Liberty Express Radio. We're on TuneIn. We're on Blog Talk Radio. We stream live.
Yeah.
And do you know, in streaming live, our second largest audience, you know what city that is?
Memphis.
Never guess. Which
Memphis, Tennessee?
No, it's Louisiana, New Orleans.
All right. Beijing, China.
Really?
I'm not kidding you. I get the stats every week. Beijing comes in #2 every time.
Beijing,
right?
Well, they do need liberty there.
No, and they are responsible.
Pay attention to what they're saying as well.
Really, a Chinese national from Beijing living in Malaysia is responsible for me being here today, because if not, I would have quitted broadcasting about 5 years ago. In fact, I did quit 5 years ago, and he wrote a letter. I never forget this. My wife read this letter, and she has a tough time crying. I drop a pencil, I cry for an hour. But no, seriously, But he wrote a letter, and I should bring this letter in and read it. It's the most unbelievable letter.
Yeah, you should.
And basically, what he says, please don't stop. He said, you have no idea what effect you have on this continent and the people who listen to you.
That's pretty amazing.
That is pretty amazing. This broadcast can only go so far. This can go to maybe, Colorado or Atlanta, but that internet show goes all the way around the world.
All over the world.
We'd be minute downtown Phoenix.
Yeah, even Phoenix.
Right. Yeah. Well,
we got some guests too, Joe. Why don't we introduce the guests before you start ranting?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I never rant.
Oh, no.
I never rant. I'm calm, cool, and collected.
You ought to see what he looks like tonight. You only can find that on the internet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Because we have a picture there.
They'll find out about it. And who are you, sir?
Rich Siskin from New York, your neighbor.
Oh, okay.
A neighbor from New York? Really?
Okay, Rich. Nice. My lovely wife is here. Gary's lovely wife is here. My wife, Erin, and Ann is here. And, of course, my agent's here. And Jim.
Yeah. Now, hey, how you doing? Good
how you doing?
Yeah, good to see you. Hey, good to see you. Now, Joe, I have to ask you, though. I mean, through all this, the start of this show here, you have an arrow through your head. Now,
Yeah.
Oh,
what's
strange,
that about?
Strange that you noticed.
Strange that I noticed.
Yeah. Well, let
How
me
could you not
explain.
notice?
This was my third failed attempt at suicide.
What?
Yeah.
Third failed attempt at
Failed
suicide.
attempt,
There
yeah,
was nothing
right.
up there, very vital that he could hit.
I guess not. Well, why did you use an arrow? Why didn't you use a gun or something like that?
Well. See, my wife was napping at the time, and I didn't want to wake her up. I'm a considerate guy. I didn't do that.
Well, 3 attempts at
Yeah.
suicide, but
Yeah, well, the first-
but you're still. Go ahead. You're still alive, though.
Oh, I know that. Well, the first attempt was interesting. I didn't know exactly how
Really?
to do this.
Suicide.
So the first time I missed altogether, and it whizzed past me.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, between you and me, don't tell my wife this, but I hit my mother-in-law's picture.
Ooh.
Right between the eyes. When she finds
that's
that
not
arrow
good.
there,
Ooh.
I'm going to be sleeping in your garage. I
Yeah,
can tell you
I
that.
bet you will be.
And then the second one, the second was a
second
little bit
attempt.
better, but I hit the cat's tail,
Poor
But
cat.
But he loved it. You know why?
Joe.
Because he goes around smacking the dog, pricking the dog with the arrow tip, Hey, the dog is miserable now, but I can't catch the cat to take it out.
He's your neighbor.
Yeah.
He was your neighbor, right?
Well, see, normally people would die from this.
Yeah.
But in order to die, you have to penetrate the cranium, and then
But
has
it's
to go
through your
the
head,
brain.
though.
Yeah, it's got to go through the brain. But it has to penetrate the brains, and then the brains swell up with blood, and you die almost instantly.
Yeah.
And, for years, people have been telling me, Joe, you have no brains at all. I didn't know how right they were.
I knew it didn't hit
So
anything.
it didn't
lived
hit
through
anything.
it. Yeah, so I lived through it, and I don't know what to do with it now. It's in my head,
Well, I guess the burning question is, okay, you've had 3 failed attempts, including this one with the arrow through your head here at suicide. The burning question here, I guess, for our listeners is why did you attempt suicide? What's the reason you attempted suicide?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I have the answer anymore.
He left the papers at home.
I left the papers at home.
The dog ate them.
my God.
I think I did. No. Here, no, I think I have it here. No, believe it or not, I have it. I'm
Gosh.
just very unprepared. No, really. The people responsible for this are the Oklahoma legislators.
This is the reason for your attempted
The Oklahoma
suicide.
legislators are responsible.
Really? Why?
Wait to hear this.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
Here's
Now, why?
some of the. I just want to read a couple of the legislations that are before us. Here's State Question 1776.
Okay.
Oh, isn't
no,
that
I'm
a-
not going to go through that one. That was the
Okay,
easy one.
yeah.
State Question 72. It's called the Quran Hijab Ban. To forbid the proselytizing of the Quran within 500 feet of a school, airport, sports event, an American Oklahoma flag, or legitimate place of worship.
Are they Moonies or something?
Wait. I thought this was
Hare
freedom of
Krishnas,
religion.
yeah.
Hare Krishnas,
What
yeah.
happened to the Constitution and the freedom of religion?
Yeah.
All right. And then it goes on. It says to forbid the wearing of hijabs, Hijabs. How do you pronounce that?
Hijab.
Hijab, yeah.
My wife knows
What are
everything.
they, those long
Hijabs,
pajamas they wear?
yarmulkes, miters, miters,
Yarmulkes?
and trailer war bonnets inside state office buildings. Well, they're being very specific. What about other religions, and how would you recognize this?
Yeah, I mean,
how do you?
Well,
That's a
who
mix.
is the dimwit that put
Yeah,
this
who's
before the?
Oh, they don't say. I just have a listing of the. I
you don't
have
have.
the-
You
no,
know
I don't
what?
see
That has got to be
What
the
a waste of
worst
time.
waste of
Well,
time.
you read that. You go, well, what happened to this freedom of religion? I
Yeah.
can't dress. What if you're wearing something that looks familiar or similar to?
Well, just like you, if you walked up near something with that arrow through your head, that'd be.
Well, if Jesus showed up in his robe, they'd throw him out.
Well,
yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
No,
Because
absolutely not. What are those people thinking?
You're cherry picking exactly what type of religious.
It just goes to show you the majority of the people are stupid for voting the guy in that came up with that.
Wait,
Yeah, I gotta find out who
hey,
did
they're voting
that.
on it. Listen, it takes more than one. Here's one.
Gosh.
Unemployed voting prohibition. A human being in Oklahoma, as referred to in Article 2, Section 2. Good thing we have to have an article referring to a human being, explaining what that is. Of this Constitution shall now be defined as any gainfully employed by private or public institution, man or woman, Further, to protect the inherent voting rights and power of these aforementioned working persons, those receiving state and federal government assistance, hereinafter referred to as those on relief, shall...
Oh, they're not human?
Excuse me, shall... I got to turn the page. Hold on.
Of course.
Shall...
More words.
...be forbidden from casting ballots in city...
Are you kidding?
No, this is
no,
state
this
question.
Is this from a joke book?
No, state question 1111. All right, forbidden from county and statewide elections. Now, by the way, this gets better. You want to know why I reached for the arrow, bow and arrow, right? Crimes against nature, State Bill 6969, and addition to the anti-sodomy crimes against nature law, blah, 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 which presently states any sexual penetration, however slight, is sufficient to complete the crime against nature. To now include the language any sexual rubbing or petting or arousing, including digital, by the way, digital
arousing and rubbing?
Yeah, digital sex, right? Oral, verbal, virtual sex, by the way, by...
They're going to bump us to 9 p.m.,
you know. Yeah, by the way.
We're going to be bumped to 9 p.m. now, Joe.
Specifically employed
2 o'clock
as
in
a
the morning for crying out loud.
precursor to procreation. I mean, these guys have got to be nuts. Here, now, this is what I love.
They'd be ashamed of themselves even thinking such thoughts.
Hobby Lobby Day, a resolution designating April 14, 2014, Good Friday, as Hobby Lobby Day in Oklahoma.
I like Hobby Lobby. You know, there's some things you can only get there. But I'm kidding. You got to be kidding me.
House Bill 10002.
Hobby Lobby Day.
Now, this has got to be a joke. When I got this, I said, this has got to be a joke. Now, it really is. And I assume these are all jokes at this point. Overturning the ban on whale hunting in the state.
In Oklahoma?
Are you? You're
I'm
not
not-
going to be serious.
When I was out at Grand Lake, I could have swore that big
Wait a
hump
minute.
came up
Are you
with a
serious?
whale, but
Really?
I'm
now
reading
I know
this
it
from the
was.
newspaper, from the Voice, you know. And then they have
Whale
HB
hunting in Oklahoma.
1002A, promote the whale, $150,000 grant to promote Oklahoma as a whale hunting designation.
What? As a non-whale hunting?
As a whale hunting designation. Someone's got to call and tell me what this is.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Now, the guys
crazy.
must have been smoking the stuff over there at the...
All right, now, this is where I picked up the bow and
source
arrow.
or
Put them
wherever
out in
it
the
was.
interstate and pick up trash or something.
Right.
Come up with these stupid bills.
All right, here it says a bill would be created to create $25,000 state grant to study the feasibility of the construction of the Jim Inhofe Religion and Science Institute.
Really?
Yeah. Now,
$25,000? He couldn't even pour the slab.
Now, this is why I thought that maybe this was really a joke and not serious. It says State Bill 1001 Life, a bill stating life begins at fertilization. No kidding.
How much money they need for that?
bunch in my room.
For nothing.
All right, now, but House Bill 69, that's his life number 2. It says a bill stating life bill starts at ejaculation.
Oh my God!
That's what I pulled. That's when I pulled the string really taut and let the arrow go. Okay,
Joe,
let's take a break and we'll come
how
back.
did you... You'll tell
Don't
me
go
when you get
away.
back.
Hi, Joe. You're on the air.
Okay, welcome back. And now
You were so ensconced with those bills.
I don't know. I got to verify. You know, I should have verified if those things were real. I'm not even sure if they were real. They just sound so stupid. You know,
Nothing.
But you know, the thing is, you see stuff like that, it scares you. You know. By the way, now it's time for our mind control, mind speak moment.
That's right. It's time for Mind Control Misspeak.
Johann von Goethe once wrote, "None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe that they are free." And we think we are free because we hear the same garbage over and over again, and we are actually led to believe that it is true what we hear. one thing that we hear incessantly, and this is mind control misspeak, by the way, is we're number one. We're number one. And you hear that all the time, and we really believe we are number one. Well, allow me just for a moment. And I wish we were number one, but allow me.
Well, in some things.
Yeah, let me allow you. Yeah, we are, and I'll explain what they are in a minute, Let me explain to you where we're probably not number one. We are 7th in the world in literacy. 7th, okay? We are 27th in math. We are 22nd in science. We are 49th in life expectancy. We're 178th in, and I fudged that, 178th. Oh, I think it's in childbirth or something like that. No, child death, I think. Is it? Child death.
Yeah.
12th in the 12th in the World Freedom Index. We are
that's sad. 12th in the World Freedom.
That's right, and dropping like a rock.
Oh boy.
We are 46. Last year we were 33. Now we're 46 in the Freedom Reporting Index. Okay, 3rd in median income. 4th in exports, 4th in labor force, 29th of the U.S. adults age 35 live with their parents. Now, that's number one. We're number one.
Oh, right? We are? We're number one of that?
Yeah.
Oh,
now,
wow.
Here's where we are number one. We are number one in the world in military spending. We are number one in the number of military bases on foreign soil. We are number one in incarcerating our citizens. We are number one in intervening in other governmental affairs, and we are approaching number one in total debt. We're number one. Now, this is what we do. We keep on repeating the same garbage over and over again. We never question it. We never sit down, and we never think about it.
And then if you don't, you can't change anything.
And the sorrowful part is that we were, in fact, number one in literacy and math and science.
At one
we
time.
were number one in all those, or close to number one in all those. And we are dropping like a rock. And the more the government intervenes to help, the more the government intervenes, the lower we go.
Wow.
You know what,
That's
Joe?
amazing.
I guess if you looked up
amazing.
USA on the Google reviews, it'd be about a 2.1 star rating at this point.
No, I don't think we'd get that much. Oh, and by the way, and 56% of the population have subprime credit ratings.
Mm-hmm.
What?
56% of the people have subprime credit ratings. And remember, in 1971, we defaulted on our debt. And no one wants to recognize that. We defaulted on our debt in 1971.
Really?
Yeah, they say, well, when did it happen? That's when Nixon said we are, and to use his words, we are temporarily detaching the U.S. dollar from the gold standard, temporarily to protect it from the speculators. What a lie that was.
Well, that's a big lie.
Yeah. And so here we are, trillions. In fact, if depending on how you statistics are statistics, is a possibility that our total debt, unfunded as well as current, can be as high as $1/4 quadrillion. $1/4 quadrillion.
We're going to be number one in something.
We're number one.
I'll tell you what
that.
it is.
We are number
in being
one.
the biggest deadbeat
right.
nation in the world.
Yeah.
If we don't stop, if we don't get something fixed.
Yeah. Now I've been watching the Olympics, and I'm serious now. I've been watching the Olympics. I don't watch much of it. I just watch selected events, late at night and whatever, maybe an hour or two. And I really admire the stick-to-itiveness and the training and the
focus.
The focus,
these
the
guys
discipline that these guys have. It is fun. Some of them, you see, they started when
kids.
they were 5 years old, and now they're 18 and they're in the Olympics. And every day of their lives, several hours a day, they did whatever they had to go to school, but they trained for this one event in the Olympics. Now, I give all the Olympic, everyone is there, I give them
kudos.
Kudos.
Big time.
My biggest kudos. I wish I had 1,000th of the stick-to-itiveness these guys have.
Me too.
And they
Persevere
do deserve our applause. They do. They
Discipline.
deserve our respect and our applause. But let me tell you, there's a problem that I have with the Olympics.
Oh, I wouldn't thought you'd have a problem with that.
You have a problem.
I have a real problem with the Olympics. You see,
oh boy,
because the problem is that the Olympics are not participant focused. It's country focused. It's politically focused. Politically focused. How many gold medals did so and so get today? What country has more medals than other medals?
Oh, sure.
You know,
yeah.
That's what they focus on. But yet the Olympics are inherently very unfair. Let me give you an example. Right here in Tulsa, there are football teams and baseball teams, whatever. But let's take football teams. I'm more familiar with them. You take a school like Jenks. That's a 5A school, a very large school.
Jenks Union.
They have a very large. It's like a semi-pro team they have. They're very good, and their rivals are like Broken Arrow or Union, right? Mm-hmm. Big schools. Plenty of people. Now, there's a 5A team, and then the smaller schools go all the way down to 1A.
And they make it fair. They go and they play schools with the same kind of pull.
1A schools sometimes cannot even field 11 people on
the field. They have an 8-man football team.
Right, 8-man football team. And they play offense and defense. Now, you can imagine would you say it would be fair if Jenks or Union or Broken Arrow played a 1A school?
Now, not at all. No.
If in fact that they did play a 1A school, would you be cheering on your team and say, "Yeah, beat them, pound them to the ground"? Now, would you? Now, seriously, you would be embarrassed to do that.
You'd be embarrassed.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, you sure would.
Using that logic, how many medals does Bangladesh have?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, none. How about try none? Okay. Now, because what you have is countries that are extremely poor. Countries that are small in population, and the population they do have that can have the time to participate is extremely small. Where when you have big industrialized nations such as the United States and Russia and China and Germany, of course in these, Norway and Sweden are doing very well. You have a large population and you have countries that have plenty of money to support an Olympic team. Well, you can't compare. Now, you can compare participant against participant, but you can't compare country against country. And we are so damn obsessed with being number one. And I'm saying we're not number one, but even when we win more medals than anyone else, it's still not number one because it's not a level playing field. It's like saying Jenks won every game against every 1A team. Mm-hmm. And I think we should wake up to that. And now that's why
and change the focus. Maybe it's okay they compete.
Games.
Maybe they compete. That's fine, but not to make the focus on focus like you said on the individuals and their ability.
That's right. Yeah. Now, because someone was born here, they couldn't help that. They're not going to go to Bangladesh. They're going to born here. They're going to take advantage of it. And they're going to go. And I don't disagree with that. But what I disagree is that when we say we have more medals than these people, well, go to those countries and you try to be an Olympian in those countries. These people are near starving. They don't have the resources, and neither do they have the population that we have. A lot of these countries don't have 316 million people to pick from. Just like a 5A team is a big school, and a 1A team is a real small school, and they don't play each other. So it's not fair for us to say we're number one. It's not fair. Now, if they said, all right, we're going to take all the 5A countries and pit them against each other, then I can see that.
Yeah.
But don't pit, the United States against Bangladesh in a winter game.
Especially
come
in
on, be
don't
fair.
think that would work.
And this crap of we're number one just bothers me. We're number one. No, it's not we. They are. That person who's spent his life doing that, the skater, the skier, he's number one. Us? I had nothing to do with it. I sat there,
you watched
eating
it on
hot
TV.
dogs and popcorn.
Where did you get those statistics anyway? You did some research, I know, this afternoon, looking up those statistics.
Which one?
The ones on America being 49th and
the
indexes.
Oh, I've heard those before. I heard them in a video, compiled of it, but I've heard them before. I knew most of them.
I saw that video. Was it the HBO video where
That's
guy is getting pressured on a stage and had these students out there?
Excellent video. Yeah. What is that called? We got to go to break. Folks, don't go away. Stay there, right? Like I tell my doggy, sit, stay. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Liberty Talk Radio on 1170 KFAQ. On this segment of our program, we are not only pleased, we're privileged privilege to have Professor Per Bylund. He's a PhD, Department of Management and Entrepreneurship at the Hagamar School of Business at Baylor University. Yeah, he's a research fellow, McQueen Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership, University of Missouri, associate fellow in the Ratio Institute of Stockholm, Sweden, awarded Outstanding Reviewer, Academy of Management in 2013. He's a founding scholar of Entrepreneurship Society in 2013. Founder of 4 small business startups between 1993 and 2005, so he has plenty of experience
in the up and down market.
Yeah, his resume goes on for pages, and
we only got a
amazing.
half hour,
Professor, are you there?
I sure am. Thanks for having me on.
Well, it's a privilege to have you here, Professor. What we are going to talk about, I assume, this evening is since you are from Sweden, you wanted to talk a little bit about how great the Swedish healthcare system is and why we should mirror it 100%. Am I correct?
Not exactly, no.
Square me away,
you are correct. You are correct in the sense that, I lived in Sweden for more than 30 years. I was born and raised there. I also have a lot of personal experience of the Swedish healthcare system, and I see some striking similarities with what is popularly called Obamacare.
Right.
I think a lot of people are a little bit afraid about what is going to happen to quality of care and so forth. And I think the story from Sweden tells us that the big problem is not going to be quality so much, because quality can easily be regulated. The big problem is going to be wait times.
Right. You know, whenever I bring that up, Professor, it seems that people say, that's just radio talk. It's bull. You know, I know somebody who lives in Germany or Sweden or whatever, and they say they never have a problem. They get their care immediately. Never a problem. I hear that over and over and over again. And I don't know why I do, because that's not reality.
Yeah, I hear that too, and I don't know why. It is the problem is that Sweden's healthcare, just like any welfare state's healthcare, is really high quality. The problem is that it's really hard to get to it. I think in a recent study, it was shown that Sweden has the 10th most effective care in the world, but it also has the longest wait times in Europe, and a lot longer wait times than, say, Albania. Obviously, there's a problem here, right?
Now, how does that affect the quality of care in a sense? Because, if you're needing an operation and they found a spot or something like that, or they got to get in there and fix something, time is of an essence, isn't it, in medicine?
Absolutely, it is. And there is a problem now, and it's reported in the media, for instance, that people are denied ambulances for rather severe illnesses. Some people are denied ambulances for stroke, for instance, because there are simply not enough ambulances around. And you can wait for certain cancer treatments for, say, 18 months or 2 years before you get it. That's definitely a problem in terms of quality, I agree. But looking at the statistics, Sweden's healthcare costs a lot. It has the latest technology. It has highly educated doctors and nurses and so forth. So using those statistics, quality is not an issue.
Yeah, I say if you're being treated, it's not an issue.
Correct.
Yeah,
right.
If you can get the care. Now, explain for the sake of our audience, how does the Swedish healthcare system work?
Right now, it's actually kind of strange. We've had a public healthcare system for many decades now. Over the past 20 years, there have been a lot of rolling back of the welfare state and a lot of introduction of market solutions. So today there is actually private care available, and 10% of the population has private health care insurance. So they basically go around the lines and they go to private hospitals instead.
I see.
So right now, it actually it's kind of a two systems at once in a way. So it's not at all like Obamacare is supposed to work, which is only one system, right?
Right. So you can elect to be within the state the state system, or you can elect to buy your own insurance and bypass that system. Would you see the same doctors, or the doctors just see you quicker when you have your own insurance?
Well, I wouldn't express it that way, because you are in the public system no matter what. So an average family of 4 people, they pay about $20,000 in taxes every year for health care. And you do not escape that. You cannot elect not to be part of the public system.
Right.
What you can do is buy an additional insurance. So if you buy an additional insurance, you get access to private doctors and hospitals and treatments and so forth on the side. So if you have an insurance, you can see a physician within a day or two.
But you also have the
If you're in
taxes.
the public,
You also have the
you
taxes,
still pay
correct?
taxes.
Yeah. So I mean, so the doctors that are servicing the privately insured are not the same doctors that are servicing those those that are within the public health care system. Am I correct?
Some are and some are not. There are some private clinics nowadays available if you have insurance, but there are also slots in the public system that are basically earmarked for private insurance only. It's a way for public hospitals to go around their strict budgets and make some money on the side, basically, to cover their costs.
Right. Well, boy, this for the average Joe Blow in Sweden, and they wouldn't call him Joe Blow, that's an American term, but for the average worker in Sweden, it sounds like paying $20,000 a year for insurance, which is relatively inaccessible. But then how much more typically does a person pay if they want to have their own insurance as well? How much? What's typically the additional cost there?
Since the private insurance basically tops off the public healthcare system, it's not that expensive. It depends on how old you are usually. If you're in your 20s, it costs about $100 a month.
Okay.
If you're in your 60s, it costs like $230 a month. Usually that tab is picked up by your employer, so you don't really pay that cost. Then in that sense, it works kind of like here.
Well, then why for that? I mean, since you're already paying $20,000 for another $100 or $200 more a month, or maybe for no extra cost if your employer will pick it up, which is a small amount for the employer to pick up, why wouldn't everyone opt out and be in the private system rather than only 10%?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess a lot of people have not figured this out yet. Though I think they are. In 2012, 4% of the population had private insurance, and last year it was 10%.
Oh, okay. So this is
150% increase in 1 year.
All right. So this is relatively.
People are figuring this out.
I'm sorry for stepping over your words, but this is then relatively new, right, Professor? I mean, this is not something that's been available to the public for a long period of time.
I think it has been available for about 20 years by now. It's just that it has not really been discovered by people until these past few years.
Well, I mean, with people, I'm having problem understanding that, because with health care is, of course, the most important thing. When you're ill, that's the most important thing in the world. You want to get fixed. And
well, it took 20 years, I bet, Joe, for them to figure out that the pie in the sky that the government.
But if they're in the healthcare system, they cannot get help. But there is a private system. Why wouldn't they be jumping out like crazy?
Well, because I have them fooled. They told them that, this is the cream of the crop. This is the best insurance system in the world, and you don't need any other insurance. And the people are stupid.
No,
I think that's what it was.
I don't buy that.
You don't buy that?
No, I don't buy that. Professor, there's got to be a reason why people haven't opted into the private system 20 years, or more people didn't do it 20 years ago. Was it 20 years ago? Was the system working well?
Not really. I think the system is probably degenerating, and that might explain why you have this surge lately.
Okay.
The wait times have increased quite a bit. But you also see differences in different regions. Sweden has a very strange system where there are regional governments who are in charge of, they're in charge of hospitals and healthcare public transportation and culture subsidies. Those are their only the only things they're responsible for.
Yeah.
And in some regions it works very well. In some regions it works not well at all. And there have been attempts to get around this problem through offering a guarantee for care within 90 days, things like that, which means that nowadays you can actually go to another regional government facility and get treatment there.
Okay.
I think a few years ago you could not.
All right. So that making it more flexible, easier access, and it's becoming all right. So now, what is the attitude of the average person regarding healthcare? How would they, if we took a survey in Sweden saying, rate your healthcare, 0 to 5, 0 meaning horrible and 5 meaning it's absolutely fantastic. How would the average person, what do you think that the mark would be there? But from the citizens,
I think they would probably mark it 4, or maybe a strong 4, or maybe even a 5. The problem is that if you have one system in your country, you're not really aware of what other countries have, what it's like in other countries. You can't really compare it to anything.
Wow.
Now people are learning that if you have private insurance, then suddenly healthcare is there right away, whereas you're used to waiting for it.
Oh, so
now this is a problem.
I say, okay, now that makes sense. You have a situation where you become accustomed to the fact when you call a doctor, it's unlike here in the United States. If something is kind of urgent and I, sweet talk the gal on the phone, she'll squeeze me in the next day. I mean, that's what I'm accustomed to, although I rarely do that. But sometimes I have to wait maybe a couple of days, depending on the severity. Or if I go to an emergency room, I may have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 hours or maybe 6 hours, but I will see a doctor within a few hours' time. If you went to an emergency room, I guess in Sweden, how long would you wait before you saw a doctor?
It totally depends on where you are in Sweden, what regional government it is, and what town it is.
Okay.
You usually wait several hours.
But,
looking at the numbers, it's actually not that much different from here. I mean, in late January, there was on the news here that a 30-year-old man in an emergency room in New York, he'd never got to see a doctor at all, and they found him the next morning dead. He had been waiting more than 8 hours. And so in that sense, well, those examples are available for Sweden as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. So people become accustomed to the wait time, and so that's not a big deal. But even if they know they're going to be is it more difficult to see a general practitioner than a specialist? I know in some countries you can see a general practitioner. I think in Germany you can see a general practitioner almost immediately. But if he refers you to a specialist, then you have a 3-month wait or whatever the case may be. Is that the same thing in Sweden, or is it different there?
Not really. It depends on what kind of specialist. Some specialists, different kinds of specialists, it doesn't take that long at all because there are not very many seeking that sort of care. Other specialists, like I mentioned before, that certain cancer treatments, you could wait for. There was a story a few years ago, I think, in the media saying that for this specific cancer treatment, you would have to wait 18 months to get a letter saying when and if you would actually get treatment.
Okay, you're dead by then. You're dead. It's over in many cases.
Yeah, very likely, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, wow. All right. Now, what do you see for the American? What do you see for Obamacare? What will happen here?
I think that the Swedish story tells us a lot about what might happen here. There are many striking similarities where the whole population is under one single system. And, I mean, 2 years ago, there were 50 million Americans without insurance. Suddenly they are insured, and they will seek care like everybody else.
Correct.
But I can't see all these new hospitals, right? So there is extra pressure on all the hospitals. The hospitals are also doing a lot more bureaucracy and pushing papers back and forth, which always comes with a system like this. It's going to be more costly in that sense. So I think right now, there is a lot of pressure on the system, which means wait times will increase.
Yeah.
And over time, I think we're going to see the same thing as we saw in Sweden, that wait times will be stubbornly long, and you can't really cut them down. And no one really seems to understand why.
Now, in Sweden, are their books balanced, or are they finding their one-payer system to be a financial burden to the country?
You mean the regional governments?
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know how they do it. I guess the regional governments. Yeah, are they finding it? Are they bringing in enough money to pay for the system, or are they falling behind? Are they going into debt?
That's a very difficult question to answer, actually, because you have regional taxation to cover these costs, but you also have a national system redistributing tax money between these regions. And I think in all regions they're talking about how they don't have enough resources, which is always a problem in any public system. It doesn't really matter how much money you get. There are never enough resources. I mentioned before how some people are denied ambulances for stroke or heart infarction and things like that because there are not enough ambulances somehow. At the same time, we can see that in Sweden 40 years ago there was 6,000 physicians for the whole country. Today there are 43,000 physicians, and now there are longer wait times. So there's obviously something wrong with how the system works.
Well, wait a minute. Wait, before the system, there were how many? You said
this was not before the system. This was in the early 70s. There were about 6,000.
6,000, and now there's 43,000?
About 43,000.
And how's the population growing?
But is the population grown that much, or is it that disproportional to the, much out of proportion to the population?
Oh, it's out of proportion. The population has grown, but not that much. The population today is a little more than 9 million. I'm not sure what it was in the early 70s, but I can guess it was maybe 7 or so.
Oh, so you have several times the number of physicians, and yet
yes, about 6 times. 6
times the number of physicians, but yet access to these physicians is no better than it was back in the 1970s.
No, access is worse. Wait times are longer now than they've been before. They fluctuate a little bit, but looking at the decades, the wait times now are much longer than 40 years ago.
Well, how could that be? What's clogging up the system?
That is what everybody's asking themselves. How can this be? And the common solution to this problem is to talk about resources, how to get them more resources.
Well, are the doctors now really regional employees?
Yes. Yes, they are.
Well,
I think they're employed by the hospitals, but the hospitals are financed regionally.
Is it possible the doctors are just not working as hard? Because what difference does it make? They're going to be making the same amount of money no matter how many people they see. Is it a matter of remuneration that they're not? They feel that they're not making much money, so why break their necks? They'll see a few people a day and then go home, pack up.
Well, one of the problems is actually the labor laws saying that you can't work more than a certain number of hours. Usually, even the public hospitals, they don't care about these laws. So, an acquaintance of mine, he worked about 108 hours a week, which is, of course, a lot. But then he had to take a few weeks off. And usually what these doctors do then, they go to another country. They go to Norway or Denmark and work there for those weeks off and make a lot of money.
Oh, I see. Well, it seems to me that the productivity is way down if you have more doctors and seeing fewer patients. Productivity is down. There's no incentive to see a large number of people. For example, my primary care physician works early in the morning till late at night, but he still sees everyone for a long period of time. I don't know how he does it. The guy's going to die young. I'll be honest with you. He's probably near 60 years old. I don't think he's going to see 65. The man works himself to death. Now, if he was a public sector employee, he may not do that. He may just say, well, I have to, see X number of people. I see X number of people, go home. You know, if 20 people in the waiting room wait, then I don't get to see them. Not my problem. I mean, is there a detach? Is the relationship with the doctor and the patient? Is there a relationship there? A close relationship?
No, I would say there's usually not really a relationship at all between your physician and yourself.
All right,
so
there's the key.
You might see different doctors
right
every time. Some people do have a relationship.
Yeah.
I think usually the problems people point to, and there have been shown in studies as well, is that there's a lot of paper pushing, filling out forms and so forth.
Okay.
Because in a system like this, you really have to control what costs money so that you know where to put more money, invest more money, and where to cut and so forth.
Well, my doctor complains that now the paperwork is getting so burdensome he can't see patients, and I was wondering if that's the same situation you have in Sweden.
Yes, it is, and the thing is that in a system like this, when you have a lot of paperwork being done, there is of course an incentive to cheat a little bit, and when you have lists like in Sweden of certain treatments that should follow certain diagnoses, and you have a standard payment for this treatment that might not cover the actual cost, what they do is just do double bookkeeping. Yeah. So for the patient, they write down a certain treatment and give the patient that treatment, and in the books they put another treatment which is more costly so that they get money to actually cover the cost.
Geez.
And of course, someone has to do all this paperwork, and one way of getting this under control is to not have secretaries or nurses do this, but demand that the actual physicians do the paperwork, because that is sort of a quality control.
We're coming close to the witching hour, Doctor. I got two questions. How much money do people make there if they're paying $20,000?
That's my question.
$20,000 a year in or more in health care costs, out of their paycheck. What's the average salary? I mean, does a disproportionate amount of their pay go to health care? I
don't think so. I mean, the regional governments tax about 10 or 12% of income, whereas Sweden is the world champion in taxes. They have been actually cutting taxes the last few years, but it's about 50% of GDP. So if you're a low-income earner, you'll probably pay around 60% in taxes.
60%? You said
something like that. When I calculate my total tax, that's not only the income tax.
All right, Doctor.
Wow.
We only have 1 minute,
Look
Doctor.
what we got to look for.
Yeah, Doctor. I'd like to give you just about 15, 30, 20 seconds closing remarks before we go off the air. Okay.
Well, I think one thing that is very interesting is how the costs for Obamacare, where that is going to land. I mean, even the Congressional Budget Office estimates that it's going to cost about $1 trillion, which is money that the federal government will pay the insurance companies to cover their losses because they have to take all these people on and not raise premiums. This is really a taxpayer subsidy of health care through the federal government that you people don't really talk about.
Right. Okay, Doctor. Thank you very much. We have to shut off because we're going to lose the line any second now. I'm getting worried. Thank you so much for calling in. We certainly do appreciate your calling in and advising us on this situation. Very critical one. Thank you very much, Doctor. We appreciate it. Good night now.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, this is it. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Thank you very much for listening. Stay well, stay tuned.